Hello and welcome to the Fanatics of Film. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. This is just a really quick video, trying to keep my videos caught up with this thing here, and just because I don't do this full-time yet, so I have other full-time jobs that actually bring in income. Forgive me, I'm a little tired because it's been a long day. I work 2 other jobs, so and I'm getting ready to head out to Montana in the morning. We're leaving early morning and plan a show tomorrow night in Montana at a wedding. So yeah, I'm essentially the wedding singer, if you want to call it something, if you want to call it that. So anyway, I love this show. I hope you do too. It's such a fantastic show. Swamp Thing is so incredible. I am a fan of the comic, and I am just really interested to see what kind of things unfold in this season, in the only season so far. Please #save Swamp Thing. This is something that is very, very, very important to be doing. We need this is something that needs to be saved. Things like Star Trek and all these other things are still going, where the really good shows get the shaft. In the beginning of this episode, we see Avery's reminiscing as he is hiding the accountant he recently fired, so to speak. And this helps us to feel sympathy for him as we see him disappoint his father by not killing an alligator. No matter what, he couldn't bring himself to kill an innocent animal. As his father utters the words, it has dead eyes, it's just a swamp. It's got swamp eyes, not worth a second of mercy. So I have a feeling we're going to hear that line later on in this season. If not, for any other reason, for maybe just reverting back to the original things that came up about here. So this whole scene is very interesting because he's reminiscing, he's remembering that moment where he couldn't kill an alligator right in that very spot, and so he uses this spot to kind of bury the people he's killed. I wonder how many people. Maybe this may have been the first time. We don't know. But that did really stick out to me. It has dead eyes. It's just a swamp. The swamp eye is not a second of mercy. So I can't help but be slightly amused because several times Avery has stated that the swamp took his father. It sounds to me like the swamp was sick of being ridiculed by his father, and took revenge. Seems like we will see how the swamp eventually did take him in one of the future episodes. So I am very curious about that. In this scene, I think that it is also important to recognize how he killed. Recognize who he killed. Strongly recommend watching the end of the previous episode because it's seamless sequence that ends up at its own personal where he ends up at his own personal cremation site. This was really cool. I mean, he is unfolding as a very interesting character. He's really he's evil. He's one of the villains of this season, or at least of this show so far. And just fun to watch, charismatic, and unpredictable. At this point, it seems like there are either 2 pathogens, or the pathogen has just mutated. Now that I've watched the episode second time, I think that's what it feels like more to me. It feels like that this it's just the pathogen has mutated, or it's just it could be either one. It could be I think this is a new pathogen that's been hiding in the corpse for since World War I, apparently. By the way, spoiler alert all over the place. This will be a spoiler review. Perhaps it's something more. So this is just interesting to see where the swamp, he does mention how the swamp just changes things. This new or mutated version of the pathogen is more threatening now, more dangerous, where the corpse lands on him and releases into him because it lands right on his arm. Lands right on his arm with it's a total like a Walking Dead moment kind of part. there for a moment there. And they are merely repelled by the lack of life and gray death that exudes from it. So as Alec's life vines try to survey the corpse after the disease is released into Todd, into his arm, they are merely repelled by the lack of life and gray death that exudes from it. This outlines the threatening quality of our new adversary. Then, as Todd tries to stab his arm off, and when he's washing dishes, I can't help but be reminded of Snakes on a Plane. And then when he introduces his own fingers to the garbage disposal, I am reminded of Claire from the pilot episode of the ever so groundbreaking show Heroes. Save the cheerleader. Save the world. But I couldn't help but be reminded of those moments. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Hopefully you do. Hopefully you do. You better know. Abby Arcane ventures into the swamp, and apparently they have resorted to a usual location to meet, so that's interesting. They have their usual spot that they hang out. It's their gazebo. It's their, it's where Anne and Gilbert met in the gazebo in Anne of Green Gables. Yeah. So Abby Arcane ventures into the swamp. Okay, so when Abby's boat is overcome by vines, I am scared for her because I am reminded of the pilot episode where our accelerant distributors met their maker. Quickly, we learned that Alec is able to control some of the chaos that once was so rampant, and that he is part of this elusive network of vine weaponry. I am reminded of the fly in this scene, and Abby is determined to help Alec, and Alec seems to be learned a lot about what is happening. He knew that the disease was fighting back, and this reveal was extraordinary because Abby then realized to take the patients off of the take the patients off of the antibiotics. So that was a good reveal moment. So I mean, it sounds like, because when Alec first awoke, he was like, "What am I? What am I?" And so, that was just all very cool. It was really cool to see him kind of. So you see him growing. We see him evolving. It's an absolute treat having Kevin Durand on this show. So far, not disappointing at all with his eccentric behavior. A constant reminder of his character's fascination with botany, a scientist who has only had a glimpse of what we know. His dedication to uncovering all the abnormalities in this situation cast a refreshing look at the story. His character truly wants everything, and he would probably become the swamp if presented with that opportunity. So this is yeah, like, this is something that I definitely feel like we're getting from him. He's the guy who plays Jason Woodrue. If you haven't seen him before, he's been in like a lot of stuff. I mean, he was in a lot of big movies in the 90s and the 2000s. He was more of a character actor, kind of like Sam Rockwell. Just refreshing to see him in this show. He brings a real fire to it. He really does. He really brings a fire to this show. So when Jason Woodrue runs into Abby at the lab, he points out that the cell circumferences are round and irregular, more suited to something with more mobility, which indicates that it is an animal when it is a plant. So and this messes with the vegans and vegetarians. Obviously, this is something that's paradoxical, very interesting, and against all normal science that we know. This interesting and cellular makeup divides us from the trees. That is what this show is about. I'm finally realizing it's about the unification of plants and animals, or at least at the cellular level, and perhaps others. Alec describes how the trees and plants are talking to him later on in this episode. So just very, it's just really interesting. It's about intelligence and life, and that life evolving through the intelligence. Very interesting stuff. I just love this. This could be a unification of plants and humans. I can't help but keep being reminded of Little Shop of Horrors. Feed me, Seymour. So anyway, Woodrue observes the cells, and he says that it is plant tissue, but it is organized like animal tissue. You can tell that he is immediately plagued with awe when he finds this out, that it's got both properties that he hasn't seen before. So he is just overwhelmed with and plagued with awe. He's overrun with jealousy. Woodrue is practically foaming at the mouth for his chance to analyze the sample. He is absolutely dying to make his mark in this journey for discovery. Abby agrees to allow him to do a full analysis. Woodrue's final line in the scene is, "Why would I give a damn about the rest of the world?" So that was a very funny line. And he delivers it with such grace, like abundance of character, for the lack of a better term. Just he really like fills. If you want to talk about someone filling the shoes of a character, he really does. Like, and he just does it in such a graceful way. I just really admire him. He's really fantastic. Ian Zerling is also in there. So it's so funny how, probably a lot of young people think of him as the guy from Sharknado, but he was also in Beverly Hills 90210, the original teen soap opera that came out in probably 80, I think it was 87 or 88, maybe 89, that launched so many people's careers. And that guy, he kind of kicks ass. He's really cool. I loved him in the Sharknado movies. I argued with some of my best friends about Sharknado for so long. So he's a blast to see in this show. Ian Zierling is starting to show up more. He is a great addition to the story. He seems to be following a destiny that is solely dictated by tarot cards, which puts him in a unique situation, bringing balloons to the hospital for some reason. I am sure that we'll see a reason he did that later on. Delroy's episode at the restaurant was so awkward because he was completely transported into a different memory, and we're seeing that with all these hallucinations that people are having, removing his own presence from the present. And Avery continues to be diabolical, living out his own plans by using the orphaned girl to woo his wife back into his heart. Abby goes back to Alec, and I remember he says specifically the swamp, it changes things here. Ms. X can sense people without seeing them. She knows something is coming. She always kind of sees ahead of things. She lives by the tarot cards, but she has a deeper knowledge of things. She has a deeper understanding of what is happening, what's going on, and what's going to come. She does have this power of seeing the future, but she seems to express a loss of some of that, at least that's what Daniel. It's funny, Daniel. Ian Zierling's character isn't even listed in IMDb. He's just listed as the Blue Devil. It's not listed. Daniel, I guess his name is Daniel, and it's just funny how it's okay. Anyway, it's pretty funny. Okay, so she explains to Daniel that aka the Blue Devil, that there's a serious crap storm on the horizon. So this is the same type of infection that has been in this town before. Of course, what's her name? Liz and Abby find this out. They do. Liz did some research, and found out that there was this thing that happened in World War I that was similar to that, where people were having hallucinations. And so this is cool. This is a lot of interesting stuff, and apparently it seems like everyone's hallucination has the same effect, except for, I know that there was a unique hallucination somewhere, and I don't remember what it was. But anyway, I have to get going because I have to get to sleep and get this video edited and get this going so I can take off on my trip this weekend. So anyway, thanks so much for joining me. This is the Fanatics of Film, and my name is Ben. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you're enjoying these reviews of Swamp Thing. I'm thoroughly enjoying this show. It is truly awesome, and hopefully we can save it. So #save Swamp Thing. Have a great one.